It is time for another episode of Sady Says. I'm Natalie Sady, and today we are talking about a topic that everybody has an opinion on, Botox and injectables. So joining me for the conversation is certified aesthetic nurse specialist, Michele Florez.
Hello there.
Hi.
I'm so glad to be here.
Thank you for joining me, and did I get your title correct?
Yes, you did. Fabulous.
Wonderful.
Perfect.
Because I always get it mixed up and round the wrong way. And it is a Friday afternoon.
Oh my God, yes. I'm so glad it's Friday.
So I feel like it is time for a drink.
Oh my God, you answered my prayers.
So I have some Spa Girl Martini.
Perfect.
I feel
I didn't
like
know that this interview included liquor.
it can include anything we like.
I'll have to interview with you more often.
Okay, so before we get started, cheers.
Cheers. Thanks for having me. Yummy.
Yeah, perfect for a Friday afternoon. Tastes a bit like cucumber.
Cucumber mint, I believe. That's what I taste.
Now that we're ready to go, Botox is something, especially more so than injectables, I think something that everybody has an opinion on. How long have you been working with injectables?
About 12 years.
Okay, so 12 years. Botox has been used for cosmetic purposes since 2002. So you've been doing it almost as long as it has been around. How has it changed, I think, from when you started working with it to where it is now?
Oh my God, it's changed so much. So I think back in the day, it originally started with just doing the frown lines and crow's feet. And then we've moved down to doing gummy smile and doing masseters to ovalize the face, neck bands. You can, hell, I even hear that they're doing Scrotox.
Aren't they wrinkly anyway?
I think they are. I don't know how. I don't know why that's a thing, but it's a thing.
Have you ever done Scrotox?
I haven't. I have not.
So you can't tell me if it's straight men or gay men that are predominantly doing this?
No, so I can't. But I have heard about it. So and I do treat like 50% of the men are gay. So and they haven't asked me yet. But so maybe it was just a publicity or marketing thing. Who knows?
Or maybe it's just a matter of time.
I know. I will go there.
That one kind of blows my mind a little bit. So the reason I wanted to sit down with you and discuss all of the things is you are my go-to woman for all of the questions that I have. And you have taught me a lot of things that I never had any idea about. And when I speak to young women about what they want to do, it freaks me out because I feel like it's information that these girls should have. So you hear a couple of schools of thought. One is that they want to get Botox to get rid of crow's feet, frown lines, all of that. And then you hear younger women talking about getting it as a preventative measure. Which side do you fall on?
I fall on both. I think that it's good to get it, in your 30s, 40s, 50s, and above because you have wrinkles and you need them taken away.
Yeah.
Preventative is a thing. It's great to do preventative Botox, but it doesn't need to be in your early 20s or in your teens. I feel like doing like around mid 20s is an okay time, and it doesn't need to be the same dose that we would dose a 35 or 40-year-old.
Right.
So it burns me up when I treat someone in their 20s and they're like, oh, I had like 40 units of Botox here. And it's like, oh my God, like that's way too much. Because you don't need to dose someone in their 20s the same way you would dose someone who has a lot of wrinkles in their 30s or 40s. Like I would do, like the average amount for the glabella area is 20 units. Somebody in their mid 20s, I would do maybe 4 or 6 units.
So it's just to slow the movement down rather than freeze it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And what's the one thing that young girls don't understand about Botox in terms of what is Botox doing to the muscles that it's being injected in?
So basically it's putting your muscle on holiday, and it is and can atrophy the muscle as well. So when you're thinking about this area here, we want to atrophy that muscle, or like like the ones that are causing us lines. However, you Botox one area, or say you freeze all these areas. You freeze here, you freeze here, you freeze here. you have to animate somehow. So you're going to, it's called recruitment. You're going to recruit other muscles in other areas. So with one thing comes another. I always say that. So yes, we can freeze this whole area, but then you're going to end up with bunny lines. So I always say, leave a little movement everywhere so that your face moves naturally and you don't recruit other muscles or cause newer wrinkles.
And the other thing that you told me about once was that when we're freezing or atrophying these muscles and they stop moving, you're also losing muscle mass. So you're then losing mass from your face.
Yes.
And this is what I think this is what scares me for a lot of the younger women that are wanting to do this to themselves, because they don't realise that they're taking mass away from their face, which is part of what keeps the wrinkles away as well.
Exactly. Preaching to the choir, girl.
That to me is a thing that I had never heard before, and I've never, every sort of younger woman that I've spoken to that has talked about it, because I've spoken to 22-year-olds that say, oh, I need to go and get Botox. And I look at them and say, I don't think that you do.
Yeah.
It's just crazy to me.
And I feel like they need to have some movement, or enough movement where then it's right to dose them.
Yeah.
Because if they're just a baby face, then no, I'm going to turn them away. And I've had younger ones, like moms bring their teens in. And because social media is so rampant now with, how to look, like to look like the Kardashians, that the moms bring their daughters in and asking, can they get filler? Can they get Botox? And I'm like, no.
Okay, so you kind of answered my next question, which was, have you ever turned people away?
I have.
Okay, that makes me feel better. To me, that's a sign of a good doctor, because there are moments in time where people go to doctors, whether it be a plastic surgeon, a cosmetic surgeon, someone for injectables, and yeah, there are times where the doctor might go, look, I would advise against this, but I can do this. But to me, the sign of a good doctor is somebody that will stand there and say, this is not appropriate.
Yes. And I like to educate them and say, okay, so, I understand why you want it. Yes, preventative Botox can be done, but again, I wouldn't do it any younger than mid-20s. But let me tell you why, what can happen. Because the more you dose Botox, your body gets used to it. That's another thing. So you start in your mid-20s, not only are you atrophying your muscles, you're also allowing your body to get used to those doses. So once you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, when you really, really, really need it, it's not going to work. So I have a lot of older ladies in their 70s that they say Botox doesn't work on them because they've been dosed heavily thus far. And thus far, everybody was freezing themselves. You had just frozen was in.
Yeah.
And now I feel like it's becoming more conservative, less is more.
But is it also becoming a bit more of an art form? Whereas I remember being backstage at different parades or shoots and hearing people talk about Botox before I'd ever touched it, tried it, or done anything with it. And they were talking about feeling completely frozen, whereas now it seems to be, it can be used for corrective measures. And
Absolutely. So typically I'll ask the patient, what is it that they're looking for? And, I'll say so how much movement do you want? Which is typically a loaded question, because sometimes they say, I want to look natural, but I don't want to see any lines, which that means frozen. So I'm like, which one is it? So then I educate them. Okay, so that frozen look or not seeing any lines, just so you know, you're going to get recruitment in some other areas, A. B, it's okay to have a little movement. You want it to work. And I don't have a C, but anyway. So then I feel like I'm able to educate them into a more natural look. Some people are just old school and they just want it to be frozen, and that's that. But I just tell them, okay, this is what, what you're going to be looking like.
So if somebody has been dosed heavily and then they ease off it and don't use as much sort of over the next few years, does their body then assimilate to the lower dose and it works better anyway? So if you can stretch your time out between procedures isn't the right word, is it?
Treatments.
Yes. Does it then work more effectively?
Yeah, and they call that a washout period. So personally speaking, I used to Botox my eyes every 2 months because I didn't like my crow's feet. And it got to the point where I was starting to get used to it. Like I needed more and more and more and more. And finally, I just did like a break. I did a holiday for my Botox.
Yeah.
And then it started working properly again, or how it naturally would work.
Okay, so I guess it's a juggling act, and I think whenever anybody gets on that slope, it is a bit of a slippery slope in terms of trying to keep it
On the straight and narrow.
Yeah, to a point where it works, where we don't go over the top. And the reason I bring that up is, so if we move sort of from the Botox to the injectables, Kylie Jenner, everyone started wanting big lips after Angelina Jolie.
I know.
Then Kylie Jenner came along and she had these really thin lips. And look, I'm all for doing whatever makes somebody feel better. However, she came out not just with fuller lips, but overly filled lips, in my opinion.
I agree.
That's what she's happy with. But, but it started a trend, and it's predominantly in younger women that are getting their lips, again, this is my opinion, overly filled, and they're all starting to look the same. But do you think part of that is it started as let's enhance our lips, and then it's just they get used to it, so they want them to be bigger and bigger and bigger? Or is that just a look they're going for?
I think it's both. I think that, okay, it is an epidemic with these big lips right now. Oh my gosh. And I don't know what I guess she's the one that started it, and and she's a national figure, so everybody wants to look like her. But also people do get addicted. I feel like some people, they start looking at, they start with the natural look, and then they just keep going more and more and more and more and more. So I think it's both. I think it's what's the trend now?
Yeah.
And then also, I just need more. I want more. And with that said, with getting addicted, and not that you're addicted, but you keep wanting more. I tell people to take pictures of themselves and look at themselves in the pictures, because you can see yourself being overly done. When you look at yourself in the mirror, it's kind of skewed. You see yourself every day, so you don't see like the true self. But I feel like a picture says 1,000 words.
I think you're absolutely right with that, because I know if I'm having a bad day, sometimes I take a photo and I go, yeah, you know what? It's not so bad. But we do when we're looking at ourselves and we're inspecting ourselves really closely. But so I asked you if you've ever turned anybody away for Botox. Have you turned people away for filler because you've just felt that it wasn't?
Yes, absolutely. A lot of times for lips. And I have a particular client where she always wanted her lips, quote unquote, blown up, like the Jenners. And I would educate her that they didn't look good the way she wanted them, and that you kind of have to go with what God gave you. You can't just create these huge ballooned out lips. And so I have to educate that as well. And I would inject them to make them bigger, but she would say more and more and more, and I would say no. And then eventually I told her I didn't want to treat her anymore, because this is not the aesthetic that I believe in, and therefore I don't want to inject her. I don't want to go against my will.
Yeah, no, which for me, I think I would find difficult, because like I said, I'm all for people enhancing what they have and making themselves feel better. But sometimes I walk down the street and see other women, and I always like to support the sisterhood, but sometimes it makes me sad to look at what women have done to themselves. To see a woman that cannot close her mouth properly because her lips are so big and they're touching the bottom of her nose.
It truly is a trend, and I call it an epidemic, because my gosh, it's ridiculous. And there's math of the lips, like where your upper lip should be, it's like 2/3, 1/3 proportion, but then it depends on your ethnicity, because different ethnicities, they're fuller all the way around. And like when you're injecting a lip, you should really just inject the meat of the, I call these the pillows.
Yeah.
And not all the way over, because that can elongate your mouth and give you that Joker look.
Yes.
And like the ends of your lips should meet or shouldn't cross over your mid-pupillary line. So these are all things that I will, show people in the mirror. Like, this is what a natural lip should be. And yes, we can enhance you and look more pouty, but we have to do it within your mouth of the face, not like, somebody else's math.
It always amazes me, first of all, sort of where we as a race sort of go, and you get to this point and think, where can we go next? When people are coming for filler and Botox, is there a particular brand people should be asking for, or do all the brands do the same thing?
So, that's a loaded question. All right, let's speak specifically to Botox and Dysport. So they both have the same endpoint, but they behave a little differently. Dysport kicks in a little quicker, sometimes can last a little longer, but has more diffusion to it. So their claim to fame is that it's more natural. Botox is a little more stiffer. People associate it with getting the frozen look.
Okay.
However, I can dose either of them any way that person wants it to be dosed. So I could make their Botox look like Dysport, or I can, give them the natural look, or we do something called actress Botox, where we dilute it a little more so it's softer because they need to have some lines on camera. So I choose the brand that's going to be good for them. Some people come in automatically saying Botox because that was the first brand to market, and I just give them the option and tell them what we have available. And
do you think part of that is branding, like with Band-Aids and Kleenex and all of that? It's just people hear the word Botox. I don't think they even realize they're discussing a brand at that point. I think they're talking about a product, as in a general product.
Absolutely.
And with filler, is it the same sort of thing, that there are different brands that do different things?
Absolutely. So in the U.S., the first brands to market for filling, well, there was collagen, but like now hyaluronic acid filler is the most prominent and most, give me the word, prevalent.
Yeah.
Now, we use it all the time.
Well, prevalent, yeah, that's why I was saying yes.
And now there's maybe 10 more fillers on the market. Anyway, and then in Europe, there's maybe like 100.
Oh, okay, that many.
Yes, and it could be more. But anyway, all of them do different things. So again, I choose a filler based on its property. Some fillers are thicker, so that's meant to be used for cheeks or jawline. Some are finer, and those are thinner, less viscous, so that would be great for fine lines. Some are softer, great for lips, great for, this area. So each filler has its place.
I'm assuming this is information and ability that every person who's injecting these products should have and know, but that it's not necessarily the case.
Correct.
Okay, so is there one thing or one place people can go to educate themselves on sort of what brands and what is best for what they're after, or is it just a matter of looking for someone like yourself who they can trust and who has the knowledge and experience?
I would go with the latter.
Well, perfect.
But they can always research all the different fillers or go on Real Self. But I feel like, it's just good to go to somebody who is non-biased, professional, ethical.
Which I agree with, but sometimes people are looking for the cheaper option. Yeah. So it's, it's about, if that's what you want to do, it's about educating yourself and then.
Yeah.
So one of the things that is always talked about whenever you hear about supermodels and actresses and why certain people are so photogenic is symmetry of the face. But most people are not symmetrical.
Absolutely.
Are you able, with Botox injectables and all the things that you do, are you able to help create symmetry or make a better balance there?
Absolutely. And that's what I do. And I, like you, am obsessed with symmetry. And I'm a perfectionist, and obsessed about it.
Like you know me or something.
So with Botox and filler, we definitely can make things more symmetrical. And it's funny that you mentioned that that symmetry is, they say, like scientific beauty is where you should be the most symmetrical. However, asymmetry also makes us beautiful. And there was a study that was done where they put two lefts of your face together and two rights of your face together, and you look ridiculous.
I was going to bring up this same thing because I saw a similar thing. It was on an Australian program before I moved over here, and they used very national figures, and they did that with their faces, and they were nowhere near as attractive when they did the symmetrical photos of them.
Yes. So I feel like I try to get them as symmetrical as possible because, yes, symmetry is beautiful, but no one is completely symmetrical. And that's the other thing too. A lot of times when I'm injecting people, they're like, oh, you put more filler here than here. And I'm like, well, if I did the exact same on both, you really would be asymmetrical. You know, I need to tweak how I'm putting the filler so that the higher cheek matches your lower cheek, and you know, and inject Botox so your higher brow matches your lower brow, or vice versa.
It's the battle for symmetry. Will never end.
I know.
I mean, it's one of those things where we're always chasing perfection. I just want to touch on, sort of before we finish up, you talked about Scrotox. So obviously we get some boys coming in, but what sort of ratio of men to women do you treat?
50-50.
Oh, it is 50-50. It's more than you thought. I remember dating somebody once he was probably about 15 years older than me, and we were sitting there one night and I looked at him and thought, you're looking a bit tired. And then I remember I saw him a week later. We lived in different states. And we were sitting there again. And I thought, oh, you've had your hair done. And then I looked closer and I went, he's had his Botox done. And I didn't know, he never discussed it with me, but I just
Men
went,
typically don't.
There you go.
I know.
It was fascinating to me in that moment to go, you've done this and you've never discussed it with me, but good to know.
I mean, and granted, I work in Beverly Hills, so, you know, geographically, I'm sure that ratio would differ. But yes, and the best thing is I'm always impressed when a guy's guy comes in and he's just your normal Joe, like your normal person who, you know, comes with his tail between his legs, like, I think I want a little Botox. and I'm like, good for you. Yes, you came in.
And so the guys, what sort of stuff are they having done? Are they just sort of getting their foreheads done, or are they getting crow's feet, or are they doing the whole shebang?
No, so I feel like the guys, so I treat a fair amount of gay people and straight, but I feel like the straight guys, well, let's put the guys, let's put straight people into Metro and just the guys.
Yeah.
The Metro will do, you know, forehead Botox, crow's feet, and may even do some cheek filler or jaw filler or something to look more manly. Under eye filler is a big thing with them because they feel like they're looking tired. With the gay population, all the gay boys want their lips done.
Of course.
And then I do a lot of jaw enhancement and making them look more like model-y or like contoured.
Chiseled?
Yeah, chiseled. That's the good word I'm looking for. What else? That's pretty much it. Like they pretty much do everything we do.
Okay, and the guys.
The guys are just I would say just like their forehead, their crow's feet, and their frown lines.
Okay, so they're just sort of lessening everything a little bit. Okay.
They're basic.
But in the best possible way.
Yes.
They're my sort of men. Okay, so if people wanted to come in for a consultation with you, where could they find you?
Oh, excuse me. At RR Aesthetics, which is in Beverly Hills.
Yes.
And it's on Wilshire and Linden.
Amazing. It's where you need to go.
Thanks for having me.
So thank you so much for joining me. Cheers. Here's to a good Friday night. Thanks, Michelle, and I will see you again next time.